Hello, Chris Nickel here, and in this video I want to introduce to you the basic technique for compositing images, or in other words, making two pictures into one. To start with, I've opened all of the images that I want to combine into a single document. You will see here, separated by the tabs, I have this picture of a mountain and this picture of the planet Mars. And I'm going to bring that picture of the planet Mars into this picture of the mountain. Of course, and importantly, I'm going to do this using non-destructive means. I'll show you what that means as we move ahead. I'm going to go to the file that I would like to have on top of the other file, and I'm going to bring it into the other document as a new layer. To do that, I'm going to go to the Layers panel of this image and right-click and select Duplicate Layer. That brings up a new window, which allows me to give the layer a name, and then under Document, I'm going to select not the file that I'm working on, but the one that I want to transfer it to, which is titled Mountain. When I hit OK, you will see as I go back to my Mountain document that that image of Mars has now been added as a new layer over the background of the mountain. The first step when compositing an image together is to place the image that's going to be on top into the file, and resize it if necessary. With the Move tool selected, I can do both, provided I have the Show Transform Controls box checked. While holding down the Shift key to preserve the aspect ratio, I can go ahead and give that Mars a new size and settle on its position. Once it has the size and positioning that I want, I simply click on this check icon at the top of the options bar, and my Mars is now in place. Now the first thing that I want to do is get rid of this dark square behind the planet Mars. Since this is a contiguous section of a rather similar color, I'm going to select the Magic Wand tool and click in that dark area in order to select that entire dark black box. With the Magic Wand tool, if your selection is not as precise as you'd like, you can always adjust the tolerance. Lowering the tolerance will make the selection choose colors only that are more similar or fewer colors, and raising the tolerance will select more colors or have a broader range of colors that it will select. With my tolerance set to 30 though, I seem to have a pretty good selection made here of my planet. Keep in mind, while you're working non-destructively, you can always go back and re-edit these after the fact. Now that I have my selection and I have my Mars layer highlighted in the layer panel, I'm going to click this button here, which looks like a rectangle with a dark circle in the middle, and if I hover my cursor over it, it says Add Layer Mask. This is very similar to the layer mask that we utilized in making area-specific adjustments on adjustment layers. When I add layer mask with a selection, you'll see that it takes the area that I selected, which is that dark background, it preserved it, and it hid everything else. That is reflected in this little thumbnail here of my layer mask. You can see that the areas that are in black are what disappeared, and the areas that are in white are what have been preserved. Now, of course, I didn't want to preserve the black background, I wanted to preserve the planet Mars. This is easy enough to fix. If I double click on my layer mask, the Properties panel comes up, and if I simply hit Invert, it will switch what is hidden and what is revealed, and now my planet is viewable. Now with layer masks, you can continue to edit them using simply a paintbrush and the black and white colors. Remembering that black conceals and white reveals. So wherever I paint black, it will hide the image and wherever I paint white, it will reveal the image. Now again, while I'm doing this, I want to make sure that I have the layer that I want to affect highlighted, and that in fact my layer mask itself has white brackets around it. You can switch back and forth between the image and the layer mask simply by clicking on the small thumbnails in the Layers panel. If I were to paint with the white brackets around the image layer, you'd see that I would simply paint black right over the top of my image. You can see that the paint is not actually appearing in the area where my layer mask is active, because it masks everything that's on that layer. Of course, I would not like to have those black marks in there, so I'll go ahead and reverse steps in the history panel. Going back though, and selecting my layer mask, making sure the white brackets are around it on the layer panel, I'm going to come in and I'm going to make some adjustments here. First off, I'm going to go ahead and erase this white line that is a residue from that box and wasn't fully hidden by the layer mask, but now it is. And I'm actually going to start removing sections of the planet Mars so it uncovers sections of the mountain. I'm going to keep going so as I see that entire area of the mountain, and as I've gone too far, I'm going to come back in with my white and start revealing that image again, but just along the edge of the mountain. As you can see as I continue, it's beginning to appear as though the mountain is rising, or rather Mars is rising behind the mountain. Now as you can see, and I'll zoom in so this is more evident, that it's difficult to trace right along the edge of a shape. A trick to that is to go up to the opacity in the Layers panel and lower the opacity for the layer that you're trying to mask. By doing so, you can clearly see where one image starts and the other stops, and where the line is that you want to trace. With the opacity low, I can make a much more precise mask along the edge of the mountain, more closely following the contour of the section of the planet that I would like hidden. I'm going to do this a little bit sloppily just for time's sake, but if I was to come back in with my paintbrushes and paint back and forth repeatedly, I could easily then refine this line in my layer mask so as to have a more accurate mask. Once I have the line roughly representing where I would like it to be, I can go ahead and re-up the opacity in the layer, and there we are. Mars rising behind a mountain. Now this technique that I've just shown you, where you're hiding areas of the image using a layer mask, is the universal technique for all compositing. Anytime you want to add one image into another, use this technique. The beauty of it is always reversible. If you decide to change your mind, let's say for example, I want to reveal a little bit more of Mars. Oh, well, I can easily come back in here to my layer mask, paint back in the area that I want to reveal, and since I've preserved all the information and have used a layer mask simply to hide and reveal my image, I can always come back in and re-edit it. At the end of this process, if I go ahead and save my file as a Photoshop document, or a .psd in other words, these layers and these masks will be indefinitely preserved, and I can always come back in, open the file, even years later, and continue to re-edit it. I hope you've enjoyed this demonstration of compositing. It's a powerful tool that you can use for years to come.